Every few minutes, my hand went to the badge hanging from my neck. It was only a 30-day temporary press credential, but it was more significant than anything I'd ever had. Seen in the parked car, I looked across the water, still rolling by, unbothered. The two stone and concrete pillars remained, as did the span of asphalt and steel between them. Massive cables were the only thing connecting the two banks. On either side, the trusses that had made the road's surface had fallen into the water, creating twisted piles of debris that peeked from beneath the surface, which scattered the moonlight in small wicks behind. A couple concrete barriers had been placed to block the road, along with faint, flashing amber lights atop floatable barricades to warn oncomers of the danger. Why wait back at the bridge? I swirled the coffee inside the mug. That's the only place I've seen this. Maybe it lives there. I don't know. Anywhere else I'd go to look for it would be a guess. He sat back in the chair, propping his feet on the table. Good point, Trace. If other people start seeing this thing, then we'll have other spots to look at. But this is as close to solid as we've got here. I gave a chuckle. I thought we were journalists. You're making it sound like we're detectives. Duke gave a shrug, arms now behind his head. Good journalism is detective work, just like crime is a good story. We look for clues, piece them together, and try to find out what's really happening. Two sides of the same coin. If you decide to stick with this, you'll end up getting to know the cops and have a working relationship with them. Been quite a few times we've worked together in one way or another. It's beneficial for everyone. Unscrewing the cap to the thermos, I poured out some of the coffee. Seemed like I had been drinking it 24 hours a day since picking up this photographer gig. The hands on my watch ticked past midnight. If Duke's thinking was right, though, and it had been trying to scare people away to save them, there wouldn't be a reason for it to show back up. Disaster had already struck here, twice. Nothing else to protect people from, aside their own foolishness. I took a sip of the steaming coffee. More likely than not, I just wind up sitting here for a few hours before deciding to head home. Try to get a few hours of sleep before heading back to the office. The last mouthful of coffee disappeared from the thermos lid that doubled as a mug. Twisting it back on, I looked at my watch again. Only a few minutes had passed. Flopping my head against the seat, I let out a sigh, turned the radio on, and closed my eyes. Behind the DJ's voice, rock music played.
Yesterday, went to the arcade. There's all this buzz about a new game there. All you do is jump around the screen as some fat guy. Forget that. It'll be around a couple months and fizzle out. But you know what's not ever gonna fizzle out? Rock and roll. And this next song is one of those reasons. Here's Electron Rain's Monster of Love.
The driving bass line started behind a wall of rhythmic, odor-driven chords. I turned the radio back off. It was too late for that sort of music. Without thinking, I looked towards the standing pylons. Crouched with its hands inside its bent knees, the creature sat. Wings moving slowly, in sync with its breath. Eyes glowing red, staring at me. Even though my heart was beating fast and heavy as the music I had just silenced, I didn't have any fear. There was only curiosity. The glowing eyes disappeared as it blinked slowly. What the hell are you? Using the steering wheel to steady my shaking hands, I snapped a few pictures. What are you doing? It looked out towards the city, then back at me. With a powerful, graceful leap, it took off into the night, flying towards the city's glow on the horizon. Starting the car, I followed as best I could. One eye focused on the road, the other on the creature. Its wings beat in smooth, powerful strokes, effortlessly gliding among the stars. As force gave way to civilization, I stopped for a moment to find the creature through misty cones shining beneath the street lamps. The dark silhouette continued flying, a silent void in the heavens. Luckily, there was hardly anyone on the roads at this hour. It took a lazy, arcing turn to the east, towards the industrial part of town where there was nothing but factories and warehouses. Its wings tucked, plunging towards the ground. I turned down a side street to follow, coming to an abandoned warehouse complex. The buildings were run down, with broken windows and streaks of rust painting the sheet metal exteriors. Running between some of the buildings were steel frames, containing conveyor belts and tracks. Perched atop one of the frames, the creature stared at me. Parking the car, I turned the engine off and stepped out. With a surprisingly steady hand, I managed to snap a couple of pictures of it sitting. As I advanced the film, its eyes narrowed. "Why did you come here?" A flash came from its eyes. Blinded, I staggered back with my hands out. A wall of hot air hit my skin. When I opened my eyes, everything was on fire. Angry orange flames poured out the broken windows, sending plumes of thick, black smoke into the air. Acrid fumes burned my lungs, sending me into an uncontrollable fit of coughing. Parts of the walls began to fall, sending showers of sparks everywhere. A low, sinister groan came from the building behind me as they started to fold. I screamed, but no sound came. I was helpless as the falling mass bore down onto my body. Then, nothing. Everything was quiet. The flames were gone. I was crouched in the abandoned parking lot of the warehouses. Above, the glowing red eyes of the creature blinked slowly before it took flight.